This is the process of going from darkness to light. Have you ever felt caught between two worlds? One where your old self has crumbled, and the other where your new self has yet to emerge. In that space, you may feel a lack of desire, purpose, or passion. But don't be afraid. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a rebirth in the making. There's a subtle moment, almost imperceptible, when everything within you begins to change. Perhaps it's after a spiritual breakthrough, a deep meditation, or simply the shattering of beliefs you once held as truths. Suddenly, the world you knew feels unfamiliar. People, routines, even your reflection in the mirror seem veiled in a mist. You've glimpsed beyond the veil, and the illusions you've lived by are dissolving. In their place is silence. Initially, this silence feels like salvation, a barefoot walk out of a burning house into the cool morning air. You breathe differently, feel lighter, and in that moment, you think, I've arrived. I Feng. This is the dissolution of the old ego. But then, almost without warning, that clarity fades. Not abruptly, not violently, but like light dimming in an empty room. This isn't depression or despair. It's your true self beginning to emerge. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself. Ambitions that once drove you now echo in an empty room. What once mattered now seems irrelevant, not out of indifference, but from a quiet observation as everything drifts away. It is an empty and chaotic process. This is the paradox few speak of. We envision awakening as a grand illumination, a revelation that ignites an unceasing purpose. But for many, especially those sensitive souls who seek within rather than without, it doesn't kindle a fire. It drains them. It purges so thoroughly that desire vanishes. Like a young man who, after a profound awakening, chases external success, only to find himself locked in an empty room again. He once wept for unfulfilled dreams, resigned. Now, he doesn't care if he achieves them. Solemn. The emptiness after awakening is real. According to modern philosophical and spiritual texts, this is known as declarative. The mist after awakening, not a deviation, but a necessity. Reflective. It's the peculiar pause between two worlds. The old has dissolved, the new hasn't yet formed. Thoughtful. When one undergoes inner awakening, whether through suffering, loss, or deep meditation, they often expect to be greeted with light, joy, or grand purpose. But in reality, awakening doesn't bring immediate clarity. It brings a mist, a gentle, persistent fog that envelops the mind. Introspective. In this mist, you're no longer the old you, but you're not yet sure who you are. Long pause. All labels, goals, and inspirations that once drove you now feel hollow, thoughtful. As Carl Jung said, enlightenment comes not from imagining figures of light, but from making the darkness conscious, reassuring. The mist after awakening is that darkness, not to be feared, but to be made conscious. It's not depression. It's the process of shedding the ego's mask to listen to your innermost voice, contemplative. Here, old ambitions no longer entice you, and new dreams haven't yet appeared. Solemn, only one thing remains, the patient waiting for your true self to rise. Comforting. If you're in that mist, know this, you're not lost. You're in the process of melting to be reborn. Hopeful. And that mist? It's the cocoon enveloping your transformation. In the spiritual journey, darkness isn't the enemy, it's the ally. As Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That darkness isn't a collapse. It's the process of deconstruction and reconstruction of self. So if you're feeling directionless, lacking motivation, don't be afraid. This isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of rebirth. You're in the midst of a journey where the old ego has dissolved, but the new ego hasn't yet formed. Stay with yourself, don't rush, don't force, don't abandon what's unfolding. You'll discover a different kind of movement, not driven by the ego, but led by the soul. You've probably experienced it, the internal collapse, yet strangely, the world around you becomes clearer than ever. Not that you suddenly know what to do, but you begin to recognize what no longer aligns with you. You stop chasing the past because you understand that yesterday's self no longer belongs to you. Awakening isn't always light. Sometimes it's a quiet retreat, like a seed lying dormant beneath the cold earth of winter, patiently awaiting spring. You don't need to rush for answers or force yourself back to old paths. In that quiet, confusing space, a completely new version of you is being formed. And then light will come, but not as you imagined. It will be gentle, profound, and full of life. A smoldering fire within, guiding you on the path that truly belongs to you. The world out there tells you to do something. Be busy, be better, be more successful. But in the deepest silence, you realize it's not about doing more to live more. It's about listening more to understand more. The meaning you're seeking isn't in achievements. It's in the moments you sit alone, in the quiet of night, and ask yourself, how do I truly want to live? That's when you begin to hear your true voice, the one once drowned out by expectations, fears, and the ego. If you love expanding your mind and mastering yourself, subscribe to the You and Your Aspirations channel. Thoughtful Carl Jung once said, "The greatest privilege in life is becoming your true self." But what few tell you is that this true self isn't always beautiful, always wise, or perfect. It can be brokenness, it's chaotic emotions, it's rejecting what once made you stand out to become true to yourself. Living true sometimes means daring to accept that you don't need to prove anything to anyone, that you can slow down, delve deep within, and move step by step to the rhythm of your soul, not the applause out there. Thought when the ego recedes, something beautiful happens. The soul begins to speak to you, not in words, but in feelings, intuition. Short, small signs you once overlooked. A hunch, a dream, a silence that makes your heart stir. Emphatic, this is the language of the soul. Immeasurable, yet always true. Insightful, this is when you begin to live from inner truth, no longer chasing the ego. Optimistic, and the wonderful thing is, when you live true to the soul, you don't burn out. Every step, no matter how small, fills you up, not empties you. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to return to yourself. Perhaps you're in a phase where everything is falling apart, where old dreams no longer matter, where you're unsure who you are. And that's okay, because in that dissolution, you're being reborn. You don't need a clear path. You just need to be honest with what you feel inside. This silence isn't a void, it's the cradle of new life beginning to form. Don't rush to repaint the old picture. Let your soul draw something truer, deeper, more right. If you're in the midst of that journey, between darkness and light, between losing direction and rediscovering yourself, know this. You're not alone. You're on a sacred journey. And this silence, this pause, is the universe's invitation. Live once, but truly, as yourself. If this narrative resonates with a phase you've quietly passed through, leave a comment below. Everyone would love to hear your journey. If the storytelling isn't quite right, comment below so you and your aspirations can improve.